What would happen if you needed God to move for you because you were going through a midnight, like a midnight crisis? Hi, my name is Adrian from Key Street Ministries. I'm so glad that you're with us today for our Thursday Thoughts. This is a two-parter we're calling Midnight. We're in Acts chapter 16, if you have your Bibles. And I'm going to go through a little bit of the context real quick, and then we're going to talk about our subject today, which is midnight. In Acts 16, Paul and his friends, Silas and others, were trying to travel to Asia Minor. But every time they would try to travel on this missionary journey, the Spirit of Jesus would stop them from going. And I could imagine Paul and Silas were trying to figure out what is going on. We've tried 2 or 3 times to go through Asia Minor, but every time we try to go, it's like God says, don't go this way. Well, one night, Paul had a dream, had a vision of a man from a place called Macedonia, which was actually in the opposite direction. And the man from Macedonia in the vision said to Paul, "Come over here and help us." And Paul understood from that vision that they were supposed to go to Macedonia. So they decided to take the journey to a city called Philippi in Macedonia. And we're going to pick it up right now in Acts chapter 16, starting at verse 12. From Troas we put out to sea and sailed straight to Samothrace, and the next day we went on to Neapolis. From there we traveled to Philippi, a Roman colony and the leading city of that district of Macedonia. And we stayed there several days. Now, they're in Philippi. They're in the place where in the vision the man asked them to come. But they're kind of a little confused because they don't know how it's going to go. They have no idea what's going to happen next. So here we are, verse 13. On the Sabbath, we went outside the city gate to the river where we expected to find a place of prayer. We sat down and began to speak to the women who had gathered there. So they're going outside of the city to this river. Jews would do 2 things if they came to a city. They would build a synagogue or a group. Synagogue is the group that you're with. They would build a group. Or if they couldn't do a synagogue in the city, they would travel outside of the city, maybe go to a river or to a creek or to a shadowy area. And so Paul and Silas decided not to go to the synagogue, which they may not have had one in that area. They decided to go outside to this river, and they find women there, Jewish women who are cleaning and who are there. It's also a place for them, an option for worship if you don't have a synagogue. One of those listening there was a woman from the city of Thyatira whose name was Lydia. She was a dealer in purple cloth. Purple was a very rare cloth and required a great process to come up with that purple. So this woman, Lydia, was probably a businesswoman of some type, and she had resources. When she and the members of her household were baptized, I skipped a verse. The Lord opened her heart to respond to Paul's message. She was a worshiper of God. When she and the members of her household were baptized, she invited us to her home. "If you consider me a believer in the Lord," she said, "come and stay at my house." And she persuaded us. Now you're going to say, how is this a midnight passage? Well, Paul and Silas had to go out of their usual pattern to talk to this woman her and her household received Jesus, and then she asked them to stay at her house. Now, I don't know if you know anything about Paul or Jewish men, but that was a big time no-no. That was like, that's really what we're not supposed to do. But God was calling Paul to change his pattern because he was trying to reach people with the gospel. Sometimes at midnight, or the midnights of our lives, the darkest points of our lives, feels like things are out of routine. Feels like things are going in different directions. And God is challenging us to accept a new pattern, a new habit, the following of the Spirit. And that can be confusing. That can be challenging. That can be even an obstacle. But if you'll listen to the voice of the Lord, he speaks all the time. But I believe especially at midnight, when we feel confused or we feel lost or out of our routine, like Paul and Silas, God speaks to us in amazing ways. And because they listened to the voice of God, they had a plan to go to Asia Minor, but God said, I want you to go to Philippi. And because they listened, God did something amazing at the river for Lydia and her family, and he was teaching Paul and Silas and that whole group to follow him wherever he leads. I don't know what your midnight is today. I don't know what you're facing. I know the God of all grace is with you. And if you will heed his calling and listen to his voice, he will help you, he will save you, he will deliver you, even today, even at midnight. God bless you. Have a great week.